quotations later, because Arabized Muslim, I like to put it. So let me go ahead and put this on speaker's view. And again, if anybody have any comments, let me make sure it's shared properly. I want to share it to a brother. A brother inspired me. A brother inspired me to do this, actually, and I'm about to share this to him right now. Give me 1 second. I got to share it to the broski. All right, and the brother, there it is, my brother. And ironically, my brother name, his last name is Moore. So I'm going to share it to you right now. So everybody can hear me well. Let me see if any comments in the section real quick. Just be patient with me real quick. Because anybody that knows me know good and well that I'm going to have presentations such as this. I'm going to have it up to the minute in order to address these things head on. So I'm gonna share this now at my page. Bam. And I'm gonna share this in a couple groups. So if anybody think of any questions, the difference. How about my good questioner? Kenzie Bay. Kenzie Bay, keep a fresh one going. Any questions to start us off? Darrell Kenzie Bay? Anything? Well, you keep a fresh, good question.
Islam, I'm processing.
I'm processing. I'm going through, going through the chains of the mind, Keep up the great work. So with that being said, family. So, family, I'm asking people to join me today. And what we're going to be talking about is the difference between the Moorish American Muslim and the Arabized Black Muslim. And when I use the term Black Muslim, I'm using those who refer to themselves as Black Americans, African Americans who adopt the faith of Islam from the perspective of that's how it's taught in the East, Sunni, Shiite, what have you. I mean no disrespect. It's called the Arabized Black Muslims. I'll probably change that, but that's quick as I could come up with it. I mean no offense. And again, I want to add that I definitely don't mean offense to anybody who study these faiths, who are part of these faiths. But what I will say is that I am adamant that Prophet Noble Drew Ali lessons, teachings, structure is unique to Prophet Noble Drew Ali, as Muhammad's teaching instructions are unique to him. You follow what I'm saying? Though it all connects to our ancient forefathers and foremothers. And I'm going to underscore that today. And so Kenzie Bay said, how do we articulate them that Prophet Muhammad was of African descent? Well, I think that's easy to see. All you got to do is look at the birth of Saudi Arabia. That came from Ibn Sa'd. I had the birth of Saudi Arabia. That would be considered East Africa. You know what I mean? I don't think that's a hard geographical lesson because the term Africa as the whole continent and divided from Asia is fairly new. That's a new thing. So I don't, and in fact, I think that's one of the least things of importance that we would have to do is articulate that Muhammad was of African descent. I think the most important thing would be look at bloodline. That's all we got to do is look at bloodline. You know what I mean? Because when we look at when we use African descent, the European has really shaken the shaker with that term African and things of that nature. But we know what is meant by that. I know what you mean by that. However, I think we look at bloodline. You know what I mean? If we know that if he's of the true blood of Abraham, I think that would clear up a whole lot. And then we can trace what it is to be of the bloodline of Abraham, you know what I mean? To be of the bloodline of Ishmael. I think that's an easy one there. But let me get to it, family. Let me see if I can. I want to see if I can share this on the post that I actually put real quick, family. And I'm gonna give some people time to get in. But this is going to be a pretty decent one. This is going to be a pretty decent one. Yeah, it is. So I'm gonna share this on the exact post that I posted, and then I'm gonna stop. So share this with a friend, tell a friend, and tell a friend. I'm gonna upload this. I'm gonna upload this also on YouTube when I'm done. So first of all, let me rise and give praise to the great God of the universal law. I give honor to the prophet Noble Drew Ali. I give honor to the forerunner of the prophet Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I give honor to all things that was given honor to before me. I give a special honor to each and every one of you for being here today and you know, being able to take time out of your busy day to learn this ultimate truth. And I call it the ultimate truth because this is the truth that everybody will run from. It is what it is. Now, people will shy away from even articulating it, if you will. They will shy away from it. And we see it all the time. So with that being said, let me get to this part. Let me get to, and make sure I'm on screen again. All right, I'm good here. All right, let me make sure. Okay, good. So I'm on screen. So here we go. So the difference between the Moorish Science Temple of America and those who subscribe to the concept of Islam as the world has come to know it. The world has not come to know Islamism or Islam in the form that is taught by Prophet Noble Drew Ali as of yet. And we have to be clear with that. And we have to be able to accept that the world has not learned Islamism as taught by Prophet Noble Drew Ali as of yet. And one of the reasons is because I am of the thought that most people who teach Islamism or Islam as taught by Prophet Noble Drew Ali, they hold back because they don't have confidence. They don't have confidence that this is an authentic teaching, a unique teaching connected to the universal teaching connected to our ancient forefathers and foremothers. It's hard for them to connect it to Prophet Muhammad, connect it to the ancient Egyptians or Cometians, connect it to the Sumerians, connect it to our ancient forefathers and foremothers. And so what they do is, because we use the latest term of the latest prophet before the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Muslim or Islam or whatever terms we use, Muslim, Islam, or we say Islam and peace, and we use these terms, most people will get confused and think that it's the exact same thing. When in principle, it is. But in practice, the cultural particulars seems to make it look different. And there is no problem with one of Arab descent to practice and to make customs in association with the lessons and principles as taught by Prophet Muhammad. Yet each prophet comes with their own cultural particulars hanging upon or connected to their ancient forefathers and foremothers. They're not that far removed from it. But what blurred the lines, what actually blurred the lines is when one prophet come on the shoulders of another prophet, and people are unable to decipher or differentiate the unveiling or the revealing of the prophet that's here of the prophet that just returned back to the essence. In other words, what Jesus taught, Muhammad taught the same thing. But you would know that some people would not be able to let go of Jesus' principled teachings because the cultural overtones of those teachings will overshadow the principles. And now they would argue back and forth that Jesus and Muhammad is different. Jesus taught this and Muhammad taught that. Jesus taught that. The same thing happened with Jesus, with the Pharisees and the Sadducees. When he came to reveal that which would unfold in his heart and mind for the people to advance, grow, and develop in their spirituality, the Sadducees and the Sadducees, what did they do? They attacked him. They said he was wrong. They said he was crazy. They said he was filled with a devil. But it because the former wasn't able to make the adjustment to the unfolding of the ultimate truth that was to be taught by Jesus. And the same thing we have with Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Many people are not able, even those who say they follow Prophet Noble Drew Ali, are really not able to wrap their mind around that this is uniquely different, yet connected to that which came before. Because we're in a new era of time now. We're not in the horse and buggy. We're not on camelback. No, we're in Teslas now. We're in stick shifts and automatic driving cars now. You know what I'm saying? Yet the vehicle is still a car. Remember the car of Jagadar? Anybody remember the car Jagadar? They didn't have a motor in that demonstration, but it was a car. They ain't had no AC in that demonstration. They ain't have XM radio up in there, but it was still a car. You know what I'm saying? And so it's the same thing with coming prophets. Coming prophets unfold that which came before them. And this is how we get to the teachers of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. So to be clear, we have to be clear as we break down the teachers of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. First of all, to make the distinction, one thing that really blows me away is when Moorish Americans would say, well, the prophet tried to get us back on the path of Islam. They would say that quick. The prophet tried to get us, return us back because he said he got his power and authority from the Holy Koran in Mecca. Well, hold up now. Let's use a little bit logic. The Holy Quran in Mecca tells the reader to follow, and we're going to go into that in a minute, that tells the reader by the way of Muhammad. So ultimately, it was said to Muhammad to follow the religion of Abraham. You don't see people trying to research and see exactly how Abraham prayed. We know he prayed. We got confidence. We don't go and see how Abraham codified monotheism. We don't go and see how he codified it. We don't go and look and see, oh, what book did Abraham read from? How many people have done that? Yet the Quran says Abraham was a friend of God, a friend of Allah, and he was of the submitters, which means he submitted his will to God. But yet you cannot find anybody who claimed to be Muslim, or whatever, what have you, to go and try to research and try to live their life as Abraham did before the coming of any other prophets. You can't find it because people just take it as confidence that what Abraham done, Muhammad is doing, and Muhammad is doing it in such a way that is consistent with his culture and his times and climate. And that brings me to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. So when we look at the term, let me go in it. Let's make the distinction. There is no way that Prophet Noble Drew Ali could be trying to return us to the cultural particulars and the doctrine of Islam as we know it today. And when I say as we know it today, I'm not talking about what Muhammad the Prophet taught. I'm talking about what is taught in his name. There's no way the Prophet Noble Ali could be returning us to that. It's impossible. And this is why it's impossible. And I'm real passionate about this. This is why it's impossible. There's too many references as the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, for one, calling Allah Father God Allah. That would not fly. We would have to drop almost 75% of our doctrine to adopt the cultural doctrine specifics of Eastern persuasion of Islam. When you open up the Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America on page 3, it reads as following: know thyself and thy Father, God, Allah. We would have to drop that off the break. Anybody ready to drop that? If you want to, go and drop that. Go and drop that. You don't have to drop that off the break. Here is the difference. Now, not only that, in our chapter for the week, and I hope I see y'all on Friday, our Grand Sheikh just read, religion, it reads, pay therefore, verse 15, pay therefore to his wisdom all honor and veneration, and bow down thyself in humble and submissive obedience to his supreme discretion. The Father, once again, the Father is gracious and beneficent. What Father are you talking about? You can't take that. You can't take that with you. So this is uniquely prescribed to the Moorish American Muslim here in the West. All right, uniquely. Now, I'm going to cover what that means in a minute. Let's go to chapter 5. When verse 22, you would never be able to take this to the persuasion of the Eastern persuasion. Chapter 10, verse 22. When man sees Allah as one with him, as what? Say it with me, y'all. As Father Allah, he needs no middleman, no priest to intercede. What does that tell you again? You would not be able to take this customarily into your Eastern thought because it's been remixed, and this would be considered shirk, making partners with Allah. Can't take this there. When man sees himself sees Allah as one with him, as Father Allah, he needs no middleman to intercede. He goes straight up to him and says, my Father, God, Allah. You can't take this to the East with you. You can't. It's impossible. Because the Prophet Noble Drew Ali's doctrine is uniquely cookie cut for the mind of the Moorish American and the experience that has taken place in this era of time. Now, let's go to one more. Life and works of Jesus in Egypt among the Gentiles. Drop on down to verse 6. Elihu and Salome heard his story with delight. They lifted up their eyes to heaven and say, our Father God Allah, let now thy servants go in peace before we have seen the glory of Allah. See, these terminologies would outright get some fanatic on your neck, literally. Chapter 8. And then the people asked, to whom shall we bring gifts? Where shall we offer sacrifice? And Jesus said, our Father Allah, ask not. See, I can go on and on with these things. Chapter 19, he pressed along the thorny. Hold up. Chapter 19, verse 33. And then he saw this man who just demonstrated unto us the power of man to raise from carnal flesh and flesh and blood, from carnal flesh and blood to the flesh of Allah. You can't take this with you. So all those that want to go back in time, you want to dress up, you want to philosophize this in association with cultural particulars of 1600 years ago, enjoy yourself. But the Moorish American is moving forward on developing towards the ethic life. And that means understanding the unlimited power of man and the unlimited power of Allah and the unity of both, of man and Allah. That's where we're going with it. You don't have to if you don't want to. Don't get yourself a camel. Go and get yourself some other stuff. We're going to go in this Tesla of spirituality. That's what we're going to do. We're going to drive on in this Tesla. That's right. And it says, verse 34, and after many years, he came and sat with us in these same groves. He told of his story. He told the story of his human life, of trials, sore temptation, buffeting, and woes. He pressed along the thorny way of life. Let me stop right there, family. He pressed along the thorny way of life till he had risen and overthrown the strongest foes of Allah and man. See, the problem is we don't like to press upon the thorny way of life. You know, Sister Robin, Mazouk Razine L, and the Elder Kinsey Bay, they be messing all up in those gardens and farming and whatever. And they know when they get around the thorn bushes, you got to be careful because you're going to get poked. Even if you are the most detailed gardener, once you get around the thorns, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get poked. But you still move forward if you're going to prune roses or if you're going to prune some raspberries or whatever other thorny bushes. You know, 9 times out of 10, you're going to try to avoid it, but you're probably going to catch one. You're probably going to catch one. But you do it anyway for the betterment of the plant that you're trying to produce, for the fruit thereof. So Jesus pressed along the thorny way of life. He knew he was going to take some hits, but he went that way anyway. See, we don't like to press upon the thorny way of life. We like to take the road of least resistance. Play along to get along. Let me look like you. Let me dress like you. Let me talk like you. Let me be easy as the summer breeze. But no. In order for things to take shape as it relates to change, you got to take the rough side. Going up the rough side of the mountain. That's right. So Jesus pressed along the thorny way of life till he had risen and overthrown the strongest foes of Allah and man. He is now the only master of the human race whose flesh has been transmuted into flesh divine. Do you know what that means? That means that through all the walks of life, through generation after generation, after all the experiences, he have unfolded to the image of God on earth. He is literally the microcosmic Allah on earth. And the next verse says this: he is the God-man of today. But everyone of earth shall overcome and be like him. Here we go again. A son of Allah. Again, you can't take that in the East. Let's be clear. You can't take this in your masjid. You can't teach this over the imam podium. So there's no way that you can say that Prophet Noble Drew Ali was trying to walk us back into the Eastern persuasion that the world has come to know as Islam. When in fact, let me be clear, what I am teaching, Muhammad taught. What I am teaching, Jesus taught. And all the prophets taught. However, because of the language barrier, we don't understand the essence or the principles of what Muhammad taught. And we try to equate English words and English representations of words to classic Arabic interpretation or transliteration of words. And that's where you go wrong. Because classic Arabic, as written in the Quran, and I taught this before, it cannot be translated word for word. Therefore, it loses its meaning, its potency, and the expression can be taken in various ways. So we, as Moorish Americans, was sent a prophet. And this prophet came to express these lessons to us in the language in which we dream in the language in which, if you was in a coma, you would contemplate in. So there'll be no misunderstanding. Now, let me go back a little bit. In the Holy Quran of Mecca, as revealed by Muhammad, in chapter 2, verse 258, it said, "Are you, O prophet, not aware of the one who argued with Abraham about his Lord, because Allah had granted him kinship?" Remember when Abraham said, "My Lord is the one who has the power to give life and cause death." He argued, "I too have the power to give life and cause death." Abraham challenged him. Allah caused the sun to rise from the east, so make it rise from the west. So this was the conversation. This was the conversation. This is why we are the microcosmic Allah and not the macrocosmic Allah. The microcosmic Allah can cause death and give life. The macrocosmic Allah can cause the sun to rise from the east, so make it rise from the west. Can you make it rise from the west? But we know that that's just a metaphor, right? We know that's just a metaphor. Now watch this. Allah caused the sun to rise from the east, and I take that metaphor to see that the sun also has rose in the west. And we're talking about the sun, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Allah's noblest image. Now, this is in our Quran, called not the sun Allah, but its noblest image. So just as the sun rose in the east, and let me tell you something, this is why we know that this is a metaphor, because Allah gives law to nature from the foundation of creation, and those laws do not change. So Allah wouldn't even go against his own law that was designed from the blueprint, from the foundation of creation. So Allah would not this is a metaphor, would not make the sun rise in the west to convince you mortal human beings of anything. But to make the sun rise in the west could only mean that the metaphorically, as Muhammad has rose in the east and the prophets has rose in the east, at some point a prophet will also rise in the west. And it says, and so the disbelievers was dumbstruck. And the law does not guide the wrongdoing people. I want to say this slowly, because I don't want people to think that this is just a Bible talk conversation. I want you to understand that the difference between Moorish Science Temple of America and Islamism taught thereof by Prophet Noble Drew Ali, it's a thinking science. It's not a simpleton science. In other words, this is not a science for one who just don't care, do not want to unravel the puzzles of life. This is a thinking science. So as Allah causes the sun to rise from the east, so make it rise from the west, give implication that Allah can make the sun rise from the west. And we know what that means, because in the west, Prophet Noble Drew Ali represent that rise. And we can see that the disbelievers are dumbstruck. I said it. They are dumbstruck They do not want to believe that Prophet Noble Drew Ali has the same lined message as Muhammad. But hey, that's on them. But anyway, we're going to get to the good part. In the Holy Quran of Mecca, chapter 60, verse 4, it says, you already have an excellent example in Abraham and those with him, when they said to their people, we totally disassociate ourselves from you and shun whatever idols you worship besides Allah. We reject you. The enemy and hatred that has risen between us and you will last until you believe in Allah alone. The only exception is when Abraham said to his father, I will seek forgiveness for you, adding, but I cannot protect you from Allah at all. The believers prayed, O Lord, you trust, we trust. You we trust, and you we always turn, and you is our final return. Let me stop this. You know what I mean? Let me stop right here. If the Holy Quran of Mecca says that you already have an excellent example in Abraham, and then one will come back and say Muhammad is the best of examples, that would only mean that he patterned himself after who? Abraham. That's all that would mean. Because Abraham was the best of examples, according to the Quran. Now, this brings me to this question. If Abraham is the best of examples, a brother asked me in my inbox, and this is the reason why I did this lesson today. A brother asked me in my inbox, he says, did Prophet Noble Drew Ali take his Shahada? Did Prophet Noble Drew Ali take his Shahada? My question is, did Abraham take his Shahada? It's about to get spicy in a minute. My question is, did Abraham take his Shahada? Did Moses take his Shahada? That's a rhetorical question. Because in the Holy Quran of Mecca, it says we do not differentiate one prophet from another. All of them are one. So if it's prescribed for one to take a Shahada, such as yourself, or in this case, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, then we should be able to find where other prophets have taken the Shahada. We should be able to find that. Now, and we can, but it's not what people think it is. And we can. The Shahada is the declaration of faith. Shahada means declaration of faith. But hold up. Who, this is where you stomp them at. Who made it a prerequisite to enter into the Ummah? Who made it? And let me say it properly. Who codified the idea that before you can become a Muslim, you must say before somebody, there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger? Show me in the Quran of Mecca where it says that in succession, that before you can enter into the faith of Islam, that you must say, there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. You will not be able to find that the way it is taught in this society. You cannot find it in the Quran. It does not exist. There is no command in the Quran that says the prerequisite is codified in a way, and let me explain what I mean by codified. What the codification of you to become a Christian, if you were one, is what? You must confess that Jesus is Lord and he died for your sins. That's the codification. That ain't what Jesus said, though. But they'll take a saying that Jesus said, you must confess with your mouth. Every tongue must confess. They use these type of things. But that is not the commandment of Jesus himself. But they take little words and then they codified it. And they say, if you don't do this, then you don't believe in Jesus and you're going to hell. It's the fear tactic. It's the fear tactic. They could have codified, love thy neighbor as thyself. Love the Lord with all their heart, mind, and soul. But they didn't codify that part because that part right there would not turn you into a robot. But they codified the part that confess that Jesus is Lord, he died for your sins, and if you do not say that, you will go to hell. That's the same thing that they did with the Shahada. Although it's in the Quran that there is no God but Allah, although it's in the Quran in another ayat or verse that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, they took those two, put it together, codified it, and say, if you don't say this, then you're not one of us. Are y'all with me? But Muhammad never said that. Muhammad never said that. You can't find that. Muhammad never said that. But they use these things to control not only a group of people of a tribe, but they have used it to control millions of people from opening their mind up to see what the true reality is of the God within themselves to unfold into their true power and strength. You follow me? So this is the difference. This is the difference. Now, with that being said, let me go a little bit further. Let me screen share again. We go a little bit further. So the question would be, was Moses a Muslim? Did Moses make a Shahada? Did Moses observe the 5 pillars of Islam? Now, let's start here again. Who instituted the 5 pillars of Islam? See, this is where the rubber meet the road at. Remember the Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, each subordinate temple is to create customs. Remember the Prophet Noble Drew Ali said that? That means that you are able, within an organized, respectful manner, to develop the essence of the lessons into a cultural expression. So the question, once again, I ask, who instituted the 5 pillars of Islam as a prerequisite of belief? Once again, I'm telling you, they took these ayats out the Quran, they codified it and gave it to the people and said, bam, if you don't say there is no God but Allah, Muhammad is his messenger, if you do not participate in distributing charity, if you do not make Hajj, if you, this is how they did that. And they repackaged it and gave it back to the people in order to get people in a codification, and they rebranded what Prophet Muhammad taught. So when we deal with the teachers of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and I'm not saying that those things are not, they are not useful, but they become a detriment when people don't understand how they came into development. Because Prophet Muhammad never said the prerequisite to become a Muslim is to make a declaration of faith. But in fact, we know that the ultimate goal is the oneness of God and man, the oneness of Allah. We already know that. That go without saying. That go without saying. but to try to codify it, to say if you don't do this, then you're going to the hellfire. That if you don't do this, you're committing shirk. That if you don't do this, no. There is no compulsion in Islam, I thought. Compulsion would mean that you don't have room to grow, learn, and develop. That it's like this, that's it, that's all. No. That is not. Anytime religion becomes a burden, that time has become critical in your life, that someone has taken advantage of you. Religion should supposed to release you from burdens. The moment that it becomes a burden, somebody taught you wrong. Somebody taught you wrong. You follow me? So many things that we see that's taught in the name of Islam was not even perpetuated by Muhammad. So the question once again is, was Moses a Muslim? Remember, Moses predates Muhammad. So according to what we see the Muslim today, Moses would not be a Muslim. Moses, according to the Koran, had a staff in his hand. Moses was demonstrating what they were called magi degrees or magic degrees in Egypt, even written in the Quran. So according to the Muslims of this hour, Moses would fall short. If I walked up to you with a staff right now and I say, I'm going to turn this staff into a snake, you will call me a witch or a genie or something. Salaam alaikum, brother. I'm going to throw my staff to the ground and you throw your staff to the ground. Like, man, this Negro crazy. He lost his mind. Man, go away, man. Oh, astaghfirullah. Oh, astaghfirullah. Stop playing with your Muslim beads and everything. Yeah, you're going to get away from me. But even in our Holy Quran in Mecca, it teaches, now throw down your staff. But when he saw it slithering like a snake, he ran away without looking back. Allah assured him, "Oh, Moses, do not be afraid. Messengers should have no fear in my presence." You feel me? But then Moses will ultimately throw down his staff and swallow him up. In other words, that Moses' understanding superseded the pharaohs of Egypt. It's a metaphor. You feel what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying? So with that being said, we need to understand the science of what's being taught in the Holy Quran of Mecca as it relates to the teachings of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And what I try to tell Moorish Americans all the time, I know our administration are tight with this, that if we can't practice it today, most likely it's not right. Most likely there's a misunderstanding. We should be able to see this today. If we can't see this today, what good is it? But now, was Abraham a Muslim? Did Moses make Shahada? Did Moses and Abraham observe the 5 pillars of Islam? Absolutely they did. Absolutely they did. But it was not codified in the way where people tried to enslave people to believe that if we don't do it your way, that we are going into some fictitious hellfire. It doesn't work like that. The unique thing about Prophet Noble Drew Ali is pulling back the layers and seeing the essence of the science and seeing the essence of the message in order to better improve yourself and unfold the seed of Allah within you. Like, this is deeper than culture. Culture is the doorway to spirituality, yes, indeed. Or some people will sell you culture, and culture could be the doorway to idiocy. And that's what we see a lot. That people use culture, they use dress up, they use signs, they use symbols, they use all of these things to walk people through a door, through idiocy. But when you subscribe to the culture of your forefathers and foremothers, it's going to open the door to spirituality, and you'll be able to see the essence of all of these what you would call metaphors, similes, You'll be able to see right through that. And that's what I'm here to talk about today. That the Prophet Noble Drew Ali's teachings is different. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali is different, but it's right and exact to the essence of the message of Muhammad. It's right and exact to the essence of the message of Abraham. It's right and exact to the essence of the message of Jesus. But from a cultural perspective, man, they're gonna cloud your judgment. This is why they can't play me. More, won't you grow a beard? Man, my face itch. I don't feel like it. I don't feel like it. That's another thing. When we look at Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and they try to act like Prophet Noble Drew Ali is trying to walk us into what they would call Orthodox Islam, which is just a cultural Arab form of Islam. Prophet Noble Drew Ali ain't got no beard hanging on the floor. I'm not trying to look like Prophet Noble Drew Ali either, but my face itch. I mean, if I could tolerate it, I might one day, but hey, my face itch. I don't feel like it. I'm good. Feel like scratching my face all day. I'm good. You know what I mean? But with that being said, many people will have that to be the defining factor of what a Muslim is. That's all a uniform. That's a uniform to say, if you don't do this, you're not in our little club. If you don't act like this, you're not in our little club. If you don't talk like this, if you don't pray like this, if you don't talk like this, if you don't dress like this, if you don't talk like this, because you know you got to learn a little bit Arabic, you're not in our little club. See, the unique thing about Prophet Noble Drew Ali is that he brings us the essence of these lessons. Let me screen share again. Though the two statements of the Shahada are both present in the Quran, for instance, chapter 37, verse 38, chapter 48, 29, they are not found side by side as in the Shahada formula, but their presence in the Hadiths. That shows that it's innovation. That shows innovation. Almost 10 chapters away, you find the second half of the Shahada. That shows innovation. Innovation means that people have created something to codify something that they wanted to use to control people. And I'm telling you that it's okay with me if that's what you want to do, but don't make that the standard for me as it relates to my declaration of faith. That's something that you made up. Because that was made up. See, this is the part that many scholars have not addressed. That many things that people call Islam and they do in the name of Islam was actually made up post-Muhammad. Stuff was made up. We're not saying that your declaration of faith, there's only one God but Allah. But let me show you something in the logic. They say that you should not associate partners with Allah. That's what they say. The Islamists, they say you shouldn't associate partners with Allah. But then in the Shahada, it says, there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. Now, for the psychology of the mind, they done made teammates, which in my mind is no problem. But they say you cannot associate partners with Allah. There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. That would be just like saying we don't have no partners. But the only quarterback is McCallum Bay, and I'm the wide receiver. But we working together now. We working together. I don't know how you gonna slice this pie, but McCallum Bay, we join at the hip. You gotta throw me the ball, brother. But so if you say the Shahada, there is no God but Allah, Muhammad is his messenger, Muhammad is the wide receiver. That's teamwork to make the dream work. But they said there is no partners. You see how the logic behind this craziness is? See, we as Moorish Americans know that in order for a law to be expressed, man must be in full manifest. A law do not exist without the expression of man understanding that a law is there in the mind of the man that's trying to recognize a law. So for those who don't believe in God, to them, God is not real. It just don't exist. Man ideal is his God, and as man unfold, his God unfold. So if man don't say God don't exist, although we know whether what he say or she say don't make a hill of beans, we know God exists, but to them, it just don't exist. It ain't nothing you can do about that. But when you start talking these little similes about you can't associate partners with a law, and you just do it with the declaration of faith. See, the true Shahada is there is no God but Allah. That's what Abraham said. Let's go back. What did Abraham say? Abraham said, hold up. Abraham said this in 60 verse 4. We totally disassociate ourselves from you and shun whatever idols you worship besides Allah. We reject you. The enemy between hatred has risen between us and you until you believe in Allah alone. That's a declaration of faith. The only exception is when Abraham said to his father, I will seek forgiveness for you, adding, but I cannot protect you from Allah at all. You follow me? So when we look at what Abraham says, are you, and this is 2:258, are you, O prophet, aware of the one that argued with Abraham about his Lord because Allah had granted him kinship? Remember when Abraham said, my Lord is the one who has power to give life and death. That's the oneness of Allah. That's the oneness of Allah. So when we look at these lessons right here, we have to be clear. Where did the Shahada come from? Where did it come from? Where was it organized? Do you know they cannot even give it a birth record? They cannot even give it a birth date. They cannot say, Muhammad said this in the Quran, and this is the prescription. I'm not trying to knock Orthodox Islam, as they call it, one way or the other. What I'm saying is the Moorish American is supposed to be the guiders of the nation. The Moorish American is supposed to take this and help our brothers in the East. But instead, we like to backpedal. You feel me? Because we don't have confidence that our prophet is a prophet indeed, and strength and power and wisdom and everything else that all prophets were brought here with. You follow me? So at the end of the day, no one as of yet can say where the construction of the prerequisite of the Shahada came from. Anybody in the comment section know? Let me know. Show me when Muhammad said in the Quran that there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger. That would be vain for Muhammad to say that. That would be kind of ego. But Muhammad wouldn't do that.
Oh, there goes Pops right there.
Islam more somebody in the background. But that would be vain, as the Prophet Noble Ali teaches us. They said to become a Muslim, you must recite this statement 3 times in front of a witness. That's what they say. Can anybody show me where Muhammad said this? Is that possible? It says that a Muslim is expected to recite this statement out loud with total sincerity, full understanding what it means. Can't nobody show me that. Now, is that a bad thing? I'm not saying it's a bad thing. But what I am saying is you can't hold people to a standard that the prophet did not hold people to. Prophet Muhammad didn't hold people to that standard. Yet in the Quran, it would be wise to understand that there is no God but Allah. It would be good to have complete understanding why Muhammad is his prophet. Yet it would be even better understood or understanding to understand that Muhammad and all the prophets demonstrated the same thing, but because of time constraints or time periods, if you will, it just appeared to be different. Principally, it's the same. You follow me? Now, the Quran does not authorize anyone to add to add Muhammad in this declaration of faith. It doesn't. It doesn't. And there is no verse in the Quran that says Allah, there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet in that order. There is none. There is two different ayats that if you piecemeal them together, it'll say that. But there is no ayat in verse. There is no chapter in verse that says that. Not one. So all of these Moorish Americans that are trying to push this concept that the Moorish American is going backward towards what we see as Islam, they're tripping. They're tripping. The only declaration of faith, let me share this real quick. The true Shahada, if there is a true Shahada, this is the true Shahada. This is the true declaration of faith. And 37:35, for whenever it is said to them in the world, there is no God worthy of worship except Allah. That is the true Shahada. That's the true declaration of faith. But it's not a prerequisite to become a Muslim unless it's codified into a system and sold back to people. Ultimately, you will learn that when you join into the Ummah or the house of the believers. You will learn that there's no God but Allah. Do you think that the people that Muhammad came to that was worshiping idols, they came in letting go their idols in the heart of their mind the moment that they walked into the circle and followed Muhammad? Absolutely not. They may have said it. Throw away your idols. Okay, good. Okay, and follow me. They may have did it. But the brain and the mind doesn't work like that. It takes a little bit of time to readjust. You know what I mean? The human experience it shows us that we're very adaptable, but it takes a little time to adapt. And so when you're coming into a faith and someone put this prerequisite on you, it shows why people don't take the faith as serious as they could, because it's like the Kazam, Kabbalah, Kazoo, boom, you're a Muslim now. Kazam, Kabbalah, Kazoom, boom, you're a Christian now. And I give my life to the Lord and Jesus is God. See, this is the thing. This is why I call many of this stuff Chrislam, because the same principle that's given to the Christian is you give your life to the Lord, he died for my sins, and now I'm saved. The same thing the Muslim. There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. But in the Moorish American Muslim, it teaches us on the front part of the Quran, something different. But it should be associated with the same. It teaches us that Prophet Noble Ali, divinely prepared by the noble prophet, the Holy Quran of Moorish Science Temple of America, divinely prepared, say, by the guiding of his father, God Allah. the great God of the universe, to redeem man from his fallen and sinful stage of humanity back to the highest plane of life, back with his Father God Allah. So it's telling that we are on the come up to go back to the oneness of our God with our God Allah. And we're talking about in thought. We're talking about in practice. We're talking about in principle. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about the oneness that so above, so below, so without, so within. The oneness. That's what we're talking about. That's what nobody else talking about, but that's what we're talking about. The Moorish American Muslim is trying to develop himself to the ideal that would enable them to build pyramids like was built in Egypt, if that's what they wanted to do. To enable them to go up in the whirlwind like Elijah, if that's what they wanted to do. To walk with God like Enoch did, if that's what they wanted to do. To ultimately go across Jerusalem with Gabriel like Muhammad did, if that's what they wanted to do. This is the science of the Moorish American and the Moorish Science Temple of America. The science of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to get you to follow Jesus for eternity, but to get you to follow Jesus, to implement what Jesus implement, to embody Jesus, and then to become a microcosmic Jesus yourself, to become the expression of Muhammad, to become the expression of Drew Ali. That's what Moorish science is all about. That's what Islamism is all about. So when people start making these crazy claims and they start acting these crazy little customs out in the name of the Moorish Science Temple of America, I say, send them to me. I say, send them to me and let's have a dialogue. I say, ultimately, you can send your imam to me and we can have a dialogue. Because for many years, the Moorish Science Temple of America has been the stepchild of all of these persuasions or persuasive thoughts in our community. All of these schools of thoughts in our community have been the stepchild, because Moorish people who claim to be Moorish leaders didn't have what it took to stand up and say, this is uniquely ours. This is uniquely ours, connected to the ancient that you think is yours. Now let me teach you about yours a little bit. We haven't had the courage to do that. We'll start growing beards. We'll start wearing long gowns. We'll start doing a whole bunch of things, and we'll lose the essence of what we are as Moorish American Muslim. We start losing ourselves trying to act like someone else. We are the guiders of the nation. The Moorish American is the divine specimen of Allah expressed through man. That's what the Moorish American is supposed to be. Why do we go backwards so much? Why? Because most people don't believe Prophet Noble Drew Ali is a prophet. Most people don't believe that. And I say most people, I'm speaking of Moorish Americans, proclaim they don't believe Prophet Noble Drew Ali is a prophet. They think what he taught was a fluke. They think what he taught was made up. They think that someone who dressed a certain way, talk a certain way, wear some sandals over some crusty toes, that they are more relevant as it relates to following the ways of Allah than Prophet Noble Drew Ali, sharp as 13 tacks on the floor. They think that is better. They think that is better. You know what I mean? They think it's better. They think that water is wetter than your water. But I'm gonna tell you, most of those cultural waters are toxic. They're toxic, and they have no saving power. They have no power to bring out the divine you. Have no saving power. So once again, did Prophet Noble Drew Ali take a Shahada? Prophet Noble Drew Ali was the walking declaration that Allah is one. He was the walking declaration, and every prophet was the walking declaration. They didn't have to say nothing. Confess with your mouth. To who? To who? Who are you going to confess with? Who are you going to confess to? In our Holy Quran, chapter 48, it teaches that our Prophet Noble Drew Ali, it says, verse 3, it says, in these modern days, there came a forerunner who was divinely prepared by the great God, Allah. And his name is Marcus Garvey, who did teach the nations of the earth to prepare the coming prophet, who was to bring the divine creed of Islam, who was to bring the true and divine creed of Islam. That would imply that the true and divine creed has not yet been here or understood since the days of Muhammad. If you got to bring something, that means it's not here. If you got to bring something, if I got to bring you a loaf of bread, you either running out bread or you ain't got none. That's how my mind thinks. So it said he was to bring the true and divine creed of Islam. And his name is Noble Drew Ali, who was prepared and sent to this earth. He was prepared and sent to this earth by who? By Allah. Why would he have to make Shahada if he was prepared and sent to this earth? That means he came with a mission. He was birthed with a mission. Why would he have to make Shahada? He was prepared and sent to this earth to teach the old time religion. Why would he have to take Shahada? That doesn't make sense. And this is not to my brother that asked me the question because he's not a Moorish American Muslim. I'm putting emphasis on it for Moorish Americans who want to go backwards, who's supposed to be the guiders of the nation. He says, who was prepared and sent to this earth by Allah to teach the old time religion and the everlasting gospel to the sons of men, that every nation shall worship on his own vine and fig tree and return to their own and become one with their Father, God Allah. That's not trying to bring me back into some cultural Islam of the desert. That's not that. That's not that. And it shouldn't be confused with that. Prophet Noble Drew Ali have already codified what Islamism is. Islamism is a fully unfolded expression of all the teachings that came before Prophet Noble Drew Ali. So what Muhammad taught is what Prophet Noble Drew Ali taught, fully unfolded. What Jesus taught is what Prophet Noble Drew Ali is teaching, fully unfolded. Fully unfolded. Fully unfolded. This is not the brick wall teaching, where you go into the teaching and you trapped inside a brick wall. This is not that. And you trying to bang yourself out because you can't do this and you can't do that and you don't understand this and you can't understand that. No, the divine teachings of Prophet Noble Drew Ali is to take you from your carnal nature into your divine nature and existence. That's it. That's all. That's it. That's all. And when people will understand, that's the same thing Muhammad was trying to do. That's the same thing that Jesus was trying to do. That's the same thing that all prophets was trying to do, is get man from his lower base self into his fully unfolded divine God self so they can have heaven on earth and it can be perpetual. Everlasting life, Jesus called it. Everlasting life. The only way that your life can be everlasting is if you are walking in your higher consciousness. Because at that point, you understand that those things that you find as challenges are really not nothing but that. Challenges to bring out your divine self. Let me go a little bit further real quick. Because there's a couple things I want to touch on. And this is really brief, but there's a few more things I want to touch on before I get out of here, that this is not the same. You know what I mean? This is definitely not the same. I'm going to put emphasis on that the Holy Quran of Mecca, and I stand on it, does not prescribe any formal declaration for converting or coming into the fold of Islam. It just doesn't exist. The Quran does not prescribe any of that. Any of that. The Quran does not prescribe any formal acknowledging of the 5 pillars of Islam. I'm not saying don't acknowledge them, because ultimately, to be a true believer, that's what you will acknowledge anyway. But it's not a formal thing in the Quran. Anybody understand what that means? When I say formal, that means there is no word for word prescription given by Muhammad for you to do this to become that. That stuff is made up. That stuff is made up. You follow me? Many times what happened is many times people use these things to control people. People use these things to control people. And once you understand how the mind works, you can understand how you can get people doing things in a group manner. And if you want to control them, you can control them like a school of fish. Soon as one move, the other move. When I move, you move, just like that. You know, it's the same thing happen when the college students get drunk and they cause a riot and one start and everybody move in one direction. Well, that's how they control people with religion. They codify religion with some of the truth and a lot of made up customs and cultures, a lot of made up customs, rituals, etc., that have no saving power. And when they say move, you move, just like that. But see, in the Moorish Science Temple of America, we're developing the spirit because we want people to be independent thinking on a higher level. And in that independence, we connect with the oneness of Allah. And so even independently thinking, truth is but one, and we arrive at the same equation. When we study the Moorish Science Temple of America, we are determined to develop ourselves to the flesh and blood of Allah. From flesh and blood to the flesh of Allah. Listen, this would scare people. This would scare people. This would scare people. Verse 33, chapter 19. And then we saw this man who has just demonstrated to us the power of man to raise from carnal flesh and blood to flesh of Allah. Once again, you can't take that into the East with you. You can't take that there. You're going to have to cover this up. You're going to have to cover this up to trying to impress the Eastern Muslims. You have to cover this one up. You ain't going to be able to take this. I'm a Moorish American. Yeah, I'm just like you. Okay. Okay. See, I ain't got that in me. I ain't got that in me to play these games. I mean, I'm too old to play these games. I ain't playing these games. I mean, no, I'm nothing like you. In fact, Allah blew forth a part of himself in me. It says it in your Quran. And now let me break it down to you and show you how this spirit can overcome and overpower the flesh, and the spirit can become one, and the flesh can become one with the spirit. Let me break it down to you how the flesh of Allah works. Let me break it down to you. If you say that the flesh, you can't become the flesh of Allah, but Allah is the creator of all things, including the flesh, what exactly are you saying? Listen, there's nothing in existence that wasn't created by the universal creator Allah. There's nothing in existence that wasn't created by Allah. This flesh was created by Allah, so guess what it is? Say it with me. Say it with me. There's nothing in existence that didn't come from the heart of Allah. So what is it? The problem is there's some murky ethers that we have to sort out. Because each part of this creation of the creator has an express purpose. And sometimes the lines get crossed and we don't use the creation by the creator for what it was created for. And it caused the ethers to be murky and make bad decisions or ill-informed decisions. But when you understand that there's nothing that you can see within or without that didn't come from the heart of Allah, you know that Allah is all. And when you understand that Allah is all, there is no need to argue about the flesh of Allah. Because Allah is all. You look someone in the face and say, who created this flesh? Allah. How was it created? They might be stuck. And you just have a conversation, tell them about Elohim, about plant, protoplasm, beast, earth, man. I mean, break that down right there. You understand what I'm saying? But Allah is all. See, we don't believe that the flesh is the devil. We don't believe that the flesh is weak. We believe, have confidence and faith that is not in the flesh to think and it's not in the bones to reason. We believe that the lower self, the devil, is sometimes called the lower self. And if it's sometimes called the lower self, there's an indication that that can change. And truth do not change or pass away. So the lower self is an illusion. So even the flesh and blood is of the energy of Allah. And now when it unites with the soul and the spirit, man becomes one, reach that state of the ethic life. But you can explain this with the Holy Quran of Mecca. This ain't hard to explain. I mean, you might get in some arguments, but this ain't hard to explain. I do all this to say this. Most people cannot represent the teachings of Prophet Noble Drew Ali with confidence because they choose not to study under those teachers, masters that could actually help them along the way. I chose to listen. You know what I mean? I chose to listen. Let me go right here. If the Quran regards all messengers equal, right? And that all the lessons are inspired texts, right? That all the lessons from the messengers, from the prophet, from all prophets are inspired. Nothing is original. It all comes from the original creator. How can one look at me confidently without examining the teachings of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali and say, that's shirk? The reason that they can do that is because they caught up into the box of cultural Islam. They have not read the book in the native language that the book was written in to even understand the essence of what it means. They have not read the book. They grabbed a lot of stuff that people gave them. I'm telling you, this was stumped many of them. When was the 5 pillars of Islam instituted as a prerequisite to become a Muslim? When was the Shahada instituted to become a prerequisite to become a Muslim? When was it instituted? That's a question right there. They can't say Muhammad said that. They can never say that directly in the Quran. They can't say that. They're going to start making up stuff. The hadith, and it was seen as sound. The hadith, they can't say that. I say all that to say this, Moorish Americans, you should be confident in your teachings of the Prophet as taught by Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I haven't found anyone that can say that there's some flawed in the logic and reasoning of these teachings. None. And I invite anybody to have a conversation, but it got to be topic-based, it got to be subject-based, so we can stick to the subject matter, so we can straighten it out. Whether it's about Shahada, because the moment that you go into the hadith, you know that's a mute argument. Because the Shiite's going to see things one way, the Sunni is going to see things one way. So we're going to have to stick to this. We're going to have to stick to this Quran. Let's stick to this Quran. We know it says there is no God but Allah, but where is the justification as a prerequisite to become a Muslim? And then interpretations start happening. Where is the formal justification? There is none. There is none. You know what I'm saying? There is none. There is no text that is formulated to say that that's a prerequisite in the lifetime of Muhammad. So this is the difference. I'll close with this. This is the difference between the Moorish American Muslim and the Arab or the cultural Islamic Arab culture following Muslim of today. That we look at the essence of the teachings as taught by Muhammad, correlating it, what we can find on Abraham, correlating it, what we can find on Jesus, correlating it, what was taught by Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and finally, correlating it, what we can ultimately express ourselves in real time. If we can't express it in real time, what good is it? What good is it? So when the Prophet Noble Drew Ali say, imitate either prophet, there is not one step that the prophet didn't make, that the prophet made, that we can't make. There's not one step. And I want to close with this, and I love to say it. Prophet Noble Drew Ali never told a Moorish American that he split any sea. He never told the Moorish American that he walked on water. He never told the Moorish American that he talked to an angel. He never told the Moorish American that he talked to a bush. He never told the Moorish American that he rained down fish. He never told the Moorish American that he was taking up in a helicopter whirlwind. He never told the Moorish American that he was this, that all the stuff that you read in the Quran. He never told the Moorish American that. Everything that the prophet demonstrated is what you can demonstrate and reach today. Everything. But he gets the most heat because those who claim to represent Prophet Noble Drew Ali has misrepresented his teaching, the doctrine, and the structure horribly wrong. Horribly misrepresented it. And there's nothing that Prophet Noble Drew Ali taught Moorish Americans that they can't walk out their door and perform right now. But let me see you fly over Jerusalem with Gabriel. With that being said, I'm going to break that degree down soon too. With that being said, I yield the floor to the Grand Sheik of the virtual component of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Esma Calabe, Islam. There is a difference. Islam, Grand Sheik.
Islam, Grand Sheik, without a shadow of a doubt, there is a difference. You know, Jesus said in John 8:32, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. And I just like to just build on what the Grand Sheik brought. If he was telling that to the Israelites, then what does that tell you? He wasn't talking about the Roman slavery, the Romans ruling over him. He was talking about how they had been mentally enslaved by their own religious leaders. Islam. See, that's the worst kind of slavery. When you can't see the shackles. The shackles are on your mind. Islam. That's the worst kind of shackles. And right now people are enslaved. And they don't even know it. They don't even know it. As Grand Sheik pointed out, this codification has been put into effect to get you to line up and think a certain way and move a certain way as a control mechanism to manipulate you. And not just you, to manipulate entire nations. Islam. So it's time to wake up, people. People are talking about waking up, and they're not woke. You know? You see all these movies talking about zombies? Our people walk around zombified, not just our people, everybody. Everybody. Islam. So we got to wake them up. We got to stand confidently on what the Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought us. Grand Sheik pointed out. Let them know. No, we're not the same. You know, one of these things is not the same. And that's us. We're not the same. We're going back to that old time religion. Islam. Thus, he pointed out the emphasis to look at Abraham. Look at it. Look at it. That's the thing. Excellent demonstration. Excellent class today, Grand Sheik. It's what we needed. Definitely what we needed.
Islam. Thank you, Grand Sheik. And I definitely want to unfold that a little more. I'll wait for a few challenges. Lately, they haven't been coming, but I will wait for a few challenges in order to unfold these lessons just a little bit more, because I know people get caught up into these cultural boxes, and they do believe that Muhammad said, in order to become a Muslim, you got to make this declaration formally and front people and all of that. They do believe that, but that's not the case. We know that in reality, people are inspired to join a fold of spiritual belief or spiritual communities or religious societies, communities, whatever. And from that, they learn the things necessary to save themselves. It's not where you blindly say, okay, I believe, and people can guide you around like a big bull with a ring in your nose. No, you come in with an open mind, empty your cup, and you say, okay, what is this about? But society has turned into a breeding ground for one to just fear themselves into a belief system. Okay, if I don't believe, I go to hell. Okay, I must believe. And then when they get out of that belief system, they go into another belief system. Okay, well, maybe I won't go to the furnace, but I do want to go to paradise. And so there's no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. That get me in paradise. You know what I mean? When in fact, we know the true path to paradise is the unfolding of the God seed that dwells within the heart of man. That's the true path. Islam.
Islam, without a shadow of a
I'm done before I go on a tangent. Islam.
Islam, Grand Chief. Islam. Now, Jesus said, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. This is why the prophet speaks on the rock on which man builds himself is understanding. Understanding. True understanding. Islam, that's the rock on which man builds himself. And until they get that, they're enslaved. Don't even know. We're like the bull being fattened up for slaughter. All right. So that's our Guides of the Nation class for this Sunday. Our chapter is chapter 35. 35 entitled Holy Instructions from the Prophet, Religion. Let's meditate on that deeply for the coming Holy Day, for Holy Day Friday, as we move through the cycle, the 7-day cycle that we repeat every 7 days. Islam. So here, man, outstanding God of the Nation class for this Sunday. All right. So with that, I'd like to open the floor up to Sheikah Robin L. if she has any additional announcements, or the Grand Sheikh has any additional announcements, and volunteer. Oh, she's with the children. Okay, all right. Let's see what she said. She says she's with the children. With the children, but have a couple of announcements. Praise the Lord, honors to the prophet. Be on the lookout for a meeting invite for convention either Tuesday or Wednesday. In addition, I have created a chat in WhatsApp for member chat. So now all those, helpful videos we have and articles we want to post, we're going to go to the WhatsApp and go in the chat, the Noble Temple chat. Islam? Okay. All right. And dialogue, etc. Be sure to leave the announcements for announcements so messages are not lost. And yeah, we were posting a lot of stuff in there. We got comfortable with WhatsApp like we were comfortable with Noble Chats and Messenger. That's fine. Yeah.